Hello again, welcome back everybody to another edition of the Rural Report. I am your Rural 2IC, and I have been getting emailed and messaged left and right asking all about everything going on in Texas and what do I think is going to happen and what am I going to do about it or what should they do about it. And so I decided that maybe I'll just make a video and try and kind of mass answer for everybody. Now, there is a lot to take in, and this may or may not help you because if you are searching for somebody to directly tell you exactly what to do, this is not going to be it. Uh, I want to get you thinking about everything, and when you do this, one of the best pieces of advice that I can give you when you go to make a difficult decision or anything along those lines, the best thing you can do is argue with yourself. Play both sides of it. And I know for some people that's a very difficult thing to do, but do your best. Just because you have a really good gut feeling that this is happening and this is what I should do about it, stop for a moment, take a step back, pull in information from everywhere you can, and start arguing with yourself. All right, I'm going to walk out the door and walk to the car. Okay, that's your plan. That's your plan. But now switch over. Why would that be a bad idea? Well, maybe somebody's outside and waiting for you. Maybe there's, some sort of vicious animal outside. Maybe your door will be stuck, or start arguing with yourself. And if you can win that argument honestly with yourself, then it may not be a bad decision, and it gives you that more of a reasonable justification that what you're doing is correct. There's a lot of people that go through and they do things based on emotion, and we've gone over this many, many times. If you are going to make a decision based on an emotion, it's probably going to be the wrong decision, and you're going to pay a consequence for it. Now, with everything going on in Texas, if you don't know what's going on, bear with me for like 30 seconds. Let me recap you. All right, so we have a bunch of people coming across the border. Whatever you're feeling, don't care. Okay, that's out of this one for the moment. So Texas decides to call a group and make it more difficult. Okay, so that happened. Then the federal government tells its people to go down and remove such barricades and barriers. Okay, that happened. Well, then Texas decided to have its people tell the federal people, you need to leave this area. Okay. Then the federal government went to the Supreme Court. Again, supreme. There's nothing higher. Once this decision is made, there's no other court. There's nowhere else to go. Remember that. We'll get back to that in a minute. And so they won the Supreme Court case for now to go down and be able to remove it. Now, there's nothing in that court order that says that they can't put anything back up. It's just that the federal government's allowed to go in and remove the barriers. So there's a lot going on in this state. Now, to fast forward a little bit, they went down, they started putting everything, as it was getting taken out, they're putting more and more up. There's 25, 26 states that have sent a letter standing in solidarity and offering assistance to Texas. And so now you're talking at least half, if not more, of the country, as far as states are concerned, that are pledging support. And then you had the federal government give a 24-hour ultimatum. Okay, well, we all sat back scratching our heads going, okay, well, what's this ultimatum? There was no, if you don't do this, this is going to happen. They basically gave the ultimatum of, if you don't do this, then something will happen. And, I kind of took it when I saw it like that it's not a valid threat. And so when you give somebody some sort of an ultimatum like that, if you are really serious, 9 times out of 10, you're going to list what the consequence is because they understand the severity of their choice. And so when it's open like that, it makes you kind of go, well, maybe nothing will happen, or maybe the consequence isn't that severe, and that's why they're not going to say it. There's a reason why you don't do it. Now, we didn't have to wait very long because it was, again, 24 hours, and it looks like so far, as of me recording this, the federal government has paused the export of liquid natural gas out of the state of Texas. Okay. Will that hurt the economy? Yes. Will that hurt, the world economy, Texas economy, American economy? Yes. Is it going to change anything? Probably not. So now we've got a bunch of people coming out, and they're either for or against. You're drawing your battle lines. You got a mass amount of truckers and farmers that are on their way down there. I believe it was February 3rd is the kickoff of the official protest. And so we're coming to a head here, okay? Two heads are going to butt together. Now, let's look at this from every angle that we possibly can and try and be reasonably objective to this. Now, I'm going to miss a lot of things because I'm not going to sit here for the next, hour, 2 hours, 5 hours listing off a bunch of things. We're just going to get the mind working. So, one scenario on this, okay, somebody's going to have to blink, whether that's Texas or whether that's the United States federal government. Now, for Texas to back down, especially after all the exposure, especially after all the pledge of support, after all the people that's rallying to go down there, that would really kill this cause. I mean, it's done. If Texas backs off of this, then there is no more control. You're not going to go in and re-kick this back up. So I don't see that happening at all. You got too many people invested in this, and again, emotionally invested in this. And so I don't see that as a plausible scenario outcome. So the other end, well, the federal government backs off. Well, that would be massive, massive weakness during an election year, mind you. And so that can't happen. And so now we're going to come into the predicament of, does the emperor have any clothes on? And so if you're going to have the person in the Oval Office start issuing all these threats and all these ultimatums and all this stuff, trying a bid of re-election, and you can't get across a single state, you're done. Okay? I mean, already poll numbers, depending on what you want to look at and whatever, polling it somewhere in that mid to upper 40s range. If you lose to Texas, the numbers plummet. It's done. It's over. Nobody's going to take you seriously home or across the waters. Okay? It's not going to happen. It's going to be a massive, massive weakness. Now, we already have a ton of things going on overseas. We already have a ton of things happening here in the United States. There's a lot on somebody's plate. There's a lot on everybody's plate, to be honest. Now, you got to look and see, is there an objective behind this, or is this organically done? Well, I don't believe it's organic, okay? You don't have this amount of people to be this organized, this well-funded, and the continuation of happening this long at this big of a scale without there being some sort of intent or organization behind it. Who is it? You guys, I'm sure, have your answers. That's not the important part on this piece here. And so now you have to look, okay, so who's against it? Well, we already have Texas, and as well as 25 to 26 other states. You only need 34, 35 states to call, like a convention of the states, and they can do something. Now, if you look at the federal government does have the option of being able to federalize Texas's National Guard. I don't see them doing that. It's only been done, once, twice, something like that. It's only been done a handful of times in the past. It would really look weak to do it. It's not out of the realm of possibility, but you're doing it to Texas of all states. Texas has The state guard, they have a bunch of other different organizations and law enforcement that it really wouldn't make much of a difference. But if you're saying that there's some sort of person or people behind this, would that be an intent? Do you want that to happen? Everybody starts sending all their National Guard down into one place, and then we just federalize them all. Well, then you outnumber the state guard. You outnumber the local law enforcement, the local sheriffs, and things like that. Okay? See where we're going with this one. Plus, once they're federalized, they're not going back to their home states. That leaves a bunch of states a little bit exposed. Now, if we don't have National Guard, which the purpose of the National Guard is, yes, to help out in things like natural disasters, but when we had the little bit of summer of love, who did we call out? The National Guard. So if we send, as a collective of different states, Ohio being one of them, we send, what do you want to say, 25, 30% of our National Guard down there to help, then what happens if something happens here? The governor cannot recall those troops. Those National Guard are now federalized. You can't recall them. So if something breaks out like another summer of love, you are minus those people. You are minus your help. And so this might be something to pay attention to, as well as the people that are emotionally involved in this, and you want to grab your firearm or whatever, and you want to run down there. And putting it out there for legal purposes, no way, shape, or form am I telling you to go commit any crimes or do any sort of violence or anything along those lines. That being said, whatever you decide to do is on you. That's your decision. Mine is, why would you want to make an event or some sort of thing happen to where you will get a certain group of people, maybe starting with the P word, and get them all into one place? I mean, does that scream Black Flag? Or does that scream a Black Swan event? A false flag is not out of the realm of possibility in this. Kind of screams like a certain date in January a few years ago. Is this another play on that? Could be. Don't know. My thing is whatever you're going to do, you need to be careful. There's a bunch of different possibilities that can go about this, especially if you want to go into the people that has already crossed for the past couple of years. If you're going to talk about sleeper cells, well, if we take our National Guard and send them all down here and federalize them to where they can't come back, what happens if sleeper cells come about? What do we do then? Our people are now down in the southern border. Well, if these sleeper cells are all over the country, especially northern, right along the Canadian line, over in the New England area, up the Great Lakes, what are you going to do? There's a lot into this that really makes you stop and think. What am I going to do personally? For the sake of time, let's speed this up a little bit. I'm in the no panic. I'm keeping an eye on it, definitely. I want to keep up to date on what's going on, but it doesn't change much for me. I do give it a little bit more attention than some other things. It does kind of hurt a little bit because I am giving it a little bit more focus, and instead I have to have the trade-off, right? Life is kind of like a pie. Every day, you got to slice it up. What are you going to eat, sleep? When are you going to work? When are you going to do things for yourself, with your family? Everything's got to have a little bit of slice of the pie. And so for me, it's a give and take on the ability. And then, part of the channel has suffered because I haven't been able to put out the daily headlines reports because I have been giving some attention to this very topic. Now, it's not going to change anything for me personally. I'm going to continue what I'm normally doing. I'm going to continue to prep. I'm going to continue to stack things. I'm going to continue to buy things like gold backs to preserve wealth. I'm going to continue to buy food, buy water, buy seeds. I'm going to continue practicing different skills to be able to start fires and different things like that. I'm going to do things for medical supplies. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. So that way, if something happens, it happens. I'm better prepared for it. I'm not going to freak out, and nobody should be freaking out. You should not be emptying your 401k. You should not be running around. If you are doing that, then you're kind of missing the boat and missing the point of what prepping is. You're preparing for this. Now, if something goes sideways, okay, if we're talking about there's an actual kinetic action, the real chance and possibility of that happening, depending as things go throughout different hours and days, it could be, okay? We're in a whole new era, and we have to make sure that our mind is not still wired in the past. Things are not what they used to be. You have different people in the military. You have different people coming up through, growing up through a different generation. It's not where, mom and dad was home. A lot of younger generations is a single parent raised by a grandparent, raised by the TV or a babysitter or whatnot. And so they don't think like the older generations. And I think that's a big mistake. Now, there's nothing to say that anybody that's watching that's 18 years old, 20 years old, I'm not talking down to you, especially you're watching a prepping channel. So hats off to you for trying to get prepared. But we have to make sure that we don't panic. We continue to prep. We continue to do the things that we can do within our budget and our means to be as best prepared for whatever scenario is going to happen. Now, if something, again, goes sideways, then it's going to be, what is your red line? Okay, if this happens, what am I going to do about it? If this happens, is it the same plan? Or, if things get worse, do I need to do something different? Does my family need to do something different? Do I need to alter some plans once this line is crossed? Or if this event happens, this is it. We lock down and we shelter in place. It's a lot of things to consider. And if you haven't thought about it, I would really encourage you to start doing that, because time's running out. Now, could nothing happen? Yeah, absolutely. It could be one of those that this gets spun up, and it just kind of poofs, and that's it. I don't see that happening, but it's a possibility. And you have to make sure that you're prepared for that as well. That's where a lot of this emotion thing comes from. I see a big mistake that a lot of people do is they see some sort of event, some piece of news or whatever, and they just get attached to it, and they start building and prepping and this and that and everything, and they're getting all right here, all to the top, and then all of a sudden it just kind of fizzles out, and then they fizzle out too. And I don't want to see that happen to you. Make sure that you keep everything in check. Keep doing what you're doing. Prepping should make it to where you don't really panic about anything, because you're trying to prepare for the most things that's more than likely that could happen. If something catches you off guard, use it as a learning experience. You should have enough things in your preps and within arm's reach, or within your property, to get you out of most things, even though it might be that specific event might be unexpected. You should still have something that's going to help and assist and make it to where you are completely unprepared. But that's about what I'm going to do. It doesn't change much. It's definitely an interesting subject. It's something that you should keep an eye on. I will continue to kind of talk about it and keep an eye on it, because it has the potential. There is potential for it to make history. Texas is the second largest state. Texas has a ton of natural resources. If Texas seceded and became its own Republic of Texas, they would have the same GDP as the entire country of Australia. They have a port. They have the Gulf of Mexico. They would have tourism. Texas would be okay if they did that. The big thing would be, though, that now you're mostly landlocked between Mexico and the United States. And then it would be the thing, does the United States declare war on Texas? Okay, we're in 2024. It could happen. Uh, but it's that thing. If Texas secedes, Mexico is not going to just stop. Okay, they're still going to probably come through that border, and so they would have to continue to do what they're doing on the southern border. But now do they have to do it with their western border and their northern border and potentially their eastern coastline? And I mean, it would be an awful lot for them. You know, it's going to be in the thing on like how do they get supplies? How do they import and export? And it would be a lot. It's not going to be a thing that I think would ever happen overnight. It is on the ballot for them to vote on secession this November, so we'll see what happens. Maybe they'll call a special session and move it up. They could do that. So a lot of this is, again, it's back to it. Take your hands, put them underneath you, sit on your hands and wait, okay? Uh, don't become emotionally invested. Make sure that you're prepping up. Make sure that you are still gaining all the supplies, the gear, the food, the water, the medical, everything that you can. And just keep doing that right there. I'm really, 90% of the reason I'm making this video is people that have reached out to me, but the other 10% is I am sitting here watching the different other channels, and you just kind of type in Texas event or whatever you want to put on there, and you can just see all these little headlines and thumbnails about, oh, we're all going to whatever, the sky is falling, this is the biggest thing and all of history. And no, I don't think we're there yet. Is the potential there? Yes. Are we there today? I don't think so. But we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong, and you can come back to the comments because I leave my videos up. And if I'm wrong, write this down and come back 6 months from now and be like, haha, you were wrong. And I will heart your little message and say, yes, I was. So, but there you go. That's what I've got for you guys today. And if you made it to this far in the video, guess what? You rock. I appreciate you spending a little bit of your time with me. We got some new and exciting things that is in the works, so make sure that you stay tuned because there is definitely more information to come. I hope you guys have a very blessed day, and say it with me now, above everything else, especially through all this mess, remember to remain united because we're all prepping in this together.